Thank you, Molly. It's really a pleasure to be here. This is the first time I've had a chance to speak to this group, and so Molly has been my virtual coach on the phone with me for the last couple of weeks, trying to acquaint me with the purpose of the forum and survey results that you had provided that could help guide my presentation. And so that was really helpful, except I got the survey results 2 days ago, and we crammed a bunch of stuff into the presentation in the last 24 hours to try to address some of the topics that I think you might be interested in. So if you don't mind, I'm going to stick a little bit more to my script because I tend to come off script, but I can talk a lot. So I'm going to try to stick with my script so I can get through my whole discussion. I've got a lot of things to share, some ideas, some case studies. I put case studies in at the last minute, a few more perhaps than we had initially planned, because Molly said, be as hands-on as you can and try to demonstrate some of the concepts. So I've tried to do that, and then there's a video at the end. So I was thinking this morning that I'm like a digital bag lady today. So I'm like, I have so much stuff, and you can see that I've got nothing on my hands. So nevertheless, let me try to get through this if I can and tell you what I have planned in terms of an agenda. So I wasn't here this morning, but I understand that you've gotten quite a bit of information on digital transformation. So I'm not going to linger on that piece of the discussion any longer than what I need to, but I need to set a bit of a stage, because digital transformation, when you do digital strategy like we do, is a lot more about a process to us, than it is about a theory. So we think about digital transformation because that's what's happening to the market leaders that we work with. So I want to give you my perspective of digital transformation and how it becomes the basis for digital strategy. And digital strategy is the basis for the experience designs that we do. And I'll show you some examples of those, including a cool little example of a drone experience that we did, which I think you'll find fun. And then I'll end with some examples of experience design across a wide range of topics that hopefully you'll find interesting. And I'll get to a video. If there's just a couple of minutes left, I'll let Molly tell me if I have time. So let me start with digital transformation and say that from my point of view, and I think from our company's point of view, digital transformation is a lot more about people than it is about technology. And lest we be confused by, the language, it's really not about technology as a set of platforms or tools. It's about how technology is becoming intrinsically integrated with people. Technology changes our behavior changes technology, and we have this relationship that develops. And our, belief is, and I think we're seeing it already, is that at some point we're not going to be able to decipher where the human work started and stopped and where the technology work began. And in a lot of ways, that's a good thing from our perspective. We're optimistic on the future of work and the future of human purpose in future work. And we believe that the more that we can kind of be advocates of technology and adopting technology in our work, better for all of us. One of the comments that I saw in your survey feedback was a few people asked us to provide any, sightings for resources that we might find inspirational or particularly useful. And so I'll give you one here, which is the World Economic Forum. If you're not following that today, I might suggest you do. It's www.weforum.org. If you haven't seen it, it's a collection of, thought leadership from across the globe. It's really a fascinating and fabulous resource. Digital transformation has its genesis in the fourth industrial revolution. This isn't a business concept that we all dreamed up, right? It's the fourth industrial revolution, and it's unlike revolutions that we've seen in the past. It is why we're in digital transformation. We're at the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution. There's a lot of change that we still haven't seen yet, and this revolution is really defined uniquely by ideas like technology and the speed of innovation of technology, the scope and velocity. I like to say it's like a perfect storm. The size and scale of it is tremendous. The movement of it and the speed of the movement is unprecedented. And when you think about the billions of people that can be powered here and have the potential of being powered here, we realize that that compounds technology innovation, which is multiplied by things like, unfettered access to knowledge, unlimited storage, mobile devices. And here we are at the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution, that will certainly profoundly change us as a society, as an organization, and what we're hoping, get the rest of the slide up, there we go, as an organization, and hopefully the question is whether it will benefit us. When I say that I'm optimistic, about this, I think there are people who are not optimistic philosophically in terms of, where the fourth industrial revolution is going. But, frankly, I think that's up to us, not so much up to machines in terms of what our relationship with them ends up being. Nevertheless, you see digital disruption in all industries and all aspects of our lifestyles, in society, even in public policy. In business, historically unrelated industries are converging and merging, and the definition of supply and demand systems are changing as technology-enabled platforms disrupt legacy industry structure. Digital lowers the barrier to entry in all areas, marketing, R&D, production, delivery, while creating new wealth and new valuation models. There is, of course, the worries about digital and the transformation as well, jobs disappearing, income inequity, concerns about meaningful work for humans in the digital age. But if we look fundamentally across our ecosystems, we see the cultural, organizational, and behavioral change that's at the epicenter of digital transformation. So it just seems to me as transformation leaders that understanding and connecting the dots between the fourth industrial revolution and how it's moving from the consumer market space into the workspace, kind of explains why we are where we are, and it provides a bit of a North Star for us as we say, what do we do here? How do we make decisions here? Particularly interesting to me in this graphic is, you can read this obviously as a before and after, but I think is this idea that people or talent is now at the center of capital, which is a big change from the center of production, which is a big change from capital being the deciding factor of production. That's why businesses can totally disrupt an industry with very little dollars, very little investment, and we can put industries on their head. It's also why in HR or in change management or anybody that has an interest in organizational design, we would say talent is at the center of everything. It's not a coincidence that talent is at the center of everything. It's because it really is the deciding idea of people at the center and what we can get people to do and the reliability of their behaviors along with a changing business model that equals business success. It's not something that we can't understand, from both a philosophical perspective and a business design perspective. So that's the basis of how we think about things at LDS, and we would say that business models, as you know, are changing pretty dramatically. New value propositions, new organizational capabilities that need to be developed as a result of that. And I just imagine that those might be the types of things that you could be dealing with. How do we respond to building organizations that are successful in the digital age? That question can be asked, how do we build the organizational capabilities that are needed in the future state for our businesses to be successful in the marketplace and for people to be successful in the workplace? I think that's what we're trying to get at. I saw some questions in your survey or some responses about the readiness of leadership. Leaders' readiness to lead in a digital, environment. And, the results of those are not very good right now. And certainly that's what we experience as well. But the problem is that, business leadership is critically needed now to build these organizations of the future. I had a different chart. This is one of the ones I swiped out at the last minute to use your data instead of mine, because my data said at the top, yet 50% of companies today don't have a digital strategy in place. And your survey said yet 50% of the companies today don't have a digital strategy in place. And, that is a problem, right? It's a problem in terms of how our marketplace strategies are ahead of our workplace strategies. That's the incongruency that's happening. In my very strong opinion, we meet with a lot of business leaders in market-leading companies, and I haven't met a leader in the last 12 months that thinks that their industry isn't being disrupted. I just haven't met somebody that has their head in the sand like that. They understand the change that they're experiencing in the marketplace. They think the business transformation in a marketplace context is significant. So what we need to do is set down the other leg of the stool and say, and so it is in the workplace as well. It's the same change. Marketplace equals workplace, customers equal employees, use whatever analogy that you need to. It's the workplace that's lagging behind what's going on in the marketplace. So when people say to me, how do we talk to leaders? Talk to them from a marketplace perspective, marketplace to workplace, because in order to deal with the disruption in the marketplace, we have to have a ready workforce. And I think that's an awful lot of the work that we do. So why is business lagging behind? What is it literally that's causing these problems, with getting stickiness of digital strategy inside the enterprise? And this isn't all of the causes, but these are some that we see. The first is that a short-term focus by leaders still dominate. That's a profoundly important statement, I think, to say that short-term focus still dominates. But the problem is that that's the antithesis of what it takes to build a digital strategy, because digital strategy, by definition, is a long-term play. It's not a short-term play. You're not going to get profits in the next 60 days against these strategies. So it is, God bless you, it is a long-term strategy that's needed here. It's not surprising that we can have businesses, notably industries like financial services, that are coming out of lean years where short-term strategies were a necessity, and now they're coming into this digital transformation age, and it's a mindset of leaders. It gets to the point that it's cultural, just so you know. Short-term managerial decision-making is cultural in many of the businesses that we work with. So to get people to be comfortable, rewarded, allowed to make long-term decisions without any visibility necessarily into short-term gains, requires a mindset change. So you can see how leadership could be trying to decide whether they're going left or going right here, especially when they're getting rewarded for short-term decisions. Right? So we've got a lot of imbalance of how these systems work today. So we say, what's the matter with our leaders? And I think there's a lot of reasonable explanation on why we are where we are. In addition, and maybe you've seen this second point around relevant business pain points are thought of as being the digital strategy for tomorrow. This is not a good idea. So what happens is, we observe things that are painful today, and we want to put digital against them, and we say, that's a digital thinking project of innovation. What do we say? But the problem is that solving pain points, known pain points, is optimizing the current business system at best. It's not reimagining it. Just think about it logically. If I fix a pain point, I might improve something. With some luck, I might optimize something. But it's unlikely I'm going to innovate on pain points alone. But the combination of solving a pain point and putting digital against it, the combination of that represents a lot of the digital projects that are running inside enterprises today, and people don't realize the gap of that with reimagining a business process, a business capability that really requires new business design. Seems to me that if there are people in the room here that do organization design and business design or have the capability of doing that, now more than ever, these projects need people like you to come forward and help design the businesses of the future, because that's not the basis of a lot of projects today. And I'll just let you read the rest, but the one I want to give a bit of voiceover to is this idea of too much technology. Too much technology, not enough strategy, not enough business. Again and again and again. I've got business people that tell me that they're working on their cloud strategy. I said, why are you saying cloud strategy? You're not a CIO. You shouldn't be working on your cloud strategy. Your CIO should work on your cloud strategy, and you should be working on your digital business strategy. But in the absence of good business models, good business thinking, technology thinking dominates. And because I put a cloud product against a pain point, I think I have an innovative business solution. Do you see what I'm saying? Not true. Innovative business solutions don't happen without business design. It's almost impossible for that to happen. So if you're not seeing business design, you're not seeing innovation, in my strong opinion. Said again, a different way, a company can't be digital in the marketplace without being digital in the workplace. You want a business case for digital strategy? That's it. That's all it is. That's everything that it is. And now you need to say, how do I do that within my company? It really is an argument of marketplace and workplace. And let me tell you, I know because we're consultants, we get hired to come in, and that's what I say to leaders. Just so you know, your workplace needs to equal your marketplace. They're like, wow. I'm like, yeah, serious. That's what you need to do. And then we help figure out how to do that. So, that's a reliable concept, and business models can be built on those. What you can't find is quick returns on those business models and a business as usual, a BAU state, within 12 months, which is what our old business cases used to look like, right? Okay, let me keep going. So business, digital transformation is organizational transformation. I'm an HR person by way background, and the thing that I love about digital transformation today is that all of us who know how to do OD, can come forward and bring our best skills to the table. It's really organizational design, like we intended the science to be, when it was institutional design 20 years ago. It's coming back, and it's coming back in this digital context, and I frankly think that's what makes it exciting. If I was going to create a model, and I'll give you another reference here, if I was going to create a model of the digital organization of the future, I think these are the dimensions of it. This is what you need for an organization to be a digital organization. The first is digital organizations redefine the nature of work and redesign work. And in a moment, I'm going to show you a case study where that's exactly what we did. We have to change the way that work gets done because machines and cognitive technologies come into the ecosystem. And now the question is, what do people do? What do we need people to do? How does that new work work? How do digital members or actors in that system work, and how do people work? So defining the work and the nature of work is critical. I don't know whether any of you read any of the writings of Edward Hess, out of the Darden School of Business at the University of Virginia. I want to encourage you to do that. He's got a couple of books out, notably recent ones, Learn or Die. I love that title, Learn or Die. The other one is Realizing Human Excellence in the Smart Machine Age. So Ed Hess, he sometimes co-authors books with other folks, but you'll find those fascinating. He coined the phrase, we need a human system of excellence, not HR, not performance and development, a human system of excellence in order to run these organizations of the future. Culture's here, structure is here, leadership is here, processes are here, rewards are here, but it needs to be a system that's designed for human excellence to occur, to help people do the jobs that only people can do, and to enable them to do the jobs that they do them best. It's a great concept. You'll find it in his books. I love it, so I've adopted his language here. In addition, developing new organizational capabilities. I'm going to show you a list of that in just a minute, things that I think are relevant in the digital organization. And finally, where we focus as a company, creating work environments and experiences that enable digital to be adopted. So we care about strategy because how can we possibly build the work tools that people need in the future state if we don't understand how they're going to work in the future state? It's crazy. We have to help the design of new business processes and capabilities because our tools are going to get hooked on people on the other side of this, and we have to make sure that they work, that they encourage the adoption of the behaviors that we're looking for. Just one point, if I can, on organizational capabilities. This is a list, not an exhaustive list, but maybe a long list, of some of the organizational capabilities that we advise our clients to be building. Now, let me say, I think a speaker prior to me might have mentioned something about not every company is the same. Not every business needs the same set of capabilities at the same priority. It's driven by the business model. It's literally driven by the business model. I did a talk about a month ago, and someone said, well, isn't there something common here? So I highlighted digital-first leadership. Clearly, in any industry, in any business model, the digital organization needs digital-first leadership. And I included one of your surveys here again to say, how common is that? And you can see 50% of our leaders are ready with the digital skills they have today. That's a pain point. That's a pain point. It's a problem in the future state, and we've got a lot of work that needs to be done with that. And that goes back to my comment of talk to them from a marketplace perspective. They'll listen to you. Finally, let me just say, along with organizational capabilities, business transformation shifts the organizational emphasis to work practices and culture. Work practices sit at the nexus of desired behaviors and new work design, where we all should be sitting, and culture is the glue that holds it all together, shaping and reinforcing the behaviors while ensuring sustainability in practice. It's important that as we design this work, we factor the role of the digital relationships in the future state, AI, robotics, cognitive computing, et cetera, because as we know, automation is happening at a very fast pace, but it's not displacing jobs as much as it's displacing tasks. And that means that the integration of people with technology is going to be required to get the work done in the future state. Only a percentage of our total jobs will be automated. The much more likely thing is that pieces of everybody's job gets automated. And now we're left with our digital capabilities and our human capabilities. And unless we can put those together without conflict, without that being a struggle for people any longer than it needs to be, it's going to take us longer to get to these digital organizations that we're talking about. Is everybody with me so far? I'm moving a little fast, I realize. I want to share this case study with you, if I can, not from the design. So I want you to it's a little, it's fun to see the design, but I want you to see it as a business strategy idea. So this is a piece of work that we did in coming up with a new work pilot for first responders. And the idea was, what can we do for first responders to improve the productivity and quality of the decisions that get made on the ground by first responders that enable us to reduce the impact of negative effects, whether it's a hurricane, an unexpected storm, et cetera, where we send first responders in. So how do we improve decision-making? How do we improve productivity? How do we reduce risk to people and property and the lives and well-being of our first responders? So when we started this project, we didn't go out and talk to first responders in the field. We didn't go out and talk to the project managers. We went and we talked to the business leaders. What's your commitment to this project? What are you trying to achieve with this project? How is this project tied to the organization that you imagine in the future state? What's its relevance? What's its relatedness? So the front end of digital strategy is focused on understanding the business model, understanding marketplace pressures. Now, this was a public service organization, so a little different than if it was a commercial business, but nevertheless, they had time pressures, they had cost pressures, they had quality pressures, et cetera, et cetera. So we understood that, and then we mapped to that the organizational capabilities that they were looking to develop. I won't read them, I'll let you see them here. But what are the organizational capabilities that we need to do? And then we pondered, how do we not only solve pain points and improve ideas like productivity, but how could we reimagine this work if we brought in digital actors, to play in these scenarios with people? And so we partnered with a drone company who was also looking for a pilot of about the same idea around the same time. And we worked to say, so how do we get drones out into damaged areas faster and safer than we could deploy people out there? We can get drones out before the storm is even over. We can deploy them, they can do some initial surveillance, they collect data, they have a mapping piece of software that gives us coordinates, and then there's an AI engine, an artificial intelligence engine, that tries to recognize those incidents. it says tree down, pole down, and tries to decipher not only the priority of the incident, but also the resources that might be needed to be deployed for that. Send an electrician, send an ambulance, send somebody that can fix the power lines. Back in the home office, there are project managers that are assigned to these disasters by region. Project managers have incidents, they have project teams, the drones go out, the information comes back, the recommendations from the AI engine are presented to the project manager. The project manager says, wait a minute, there's a car under that tree by the picture. It's not a downed tree. There could be somebody in that car. So let me put some intelligence on top of this that says that's going to be more important, that we find out if there's somebody in that car or not before we dispatch an electrician, So then we send the drones out again if that's the fastest way to get out. And then we're also sending out first responders based on priority, based on skill sets that we have. And the first responders are sending us information back from the ground. They're telling us, just so you know, that power line is bad, but the water main break over here is worse. So you should let me go work on that first, and then I'll come back to this. So first responders can change incidents, they can change priority of incidents. The project manager is responding, and even though the drones are flying in and out and the AI engine is trying to decipher this, at the end of the day, only a certain classification of decisions without human intervention. Do you see what I mean? So I can tell you that no human that I met in this process was afraid of the drones. They were kind of grateful, you know what I mean, that we could send the drones in first, to do this surveillance. They realized that if we could make this work, that there was an intrinsic safety advantage plus a time advantage, We can cover so much more ground, by getting drones out there than getting trucks on the ground. So you see the concept of when we do digital right, we find a role for everybody, and we find the best role for everybody so that it works like a system, it works like an organizational system. Digital strategy and transformation to business strategy to organizational change, what needs to change, structure, process, work design, people, definition of the relationship of digital counterparts to human actors, and then we put it into a design and we run it again and again, and we're not looking for why it works, we're looking for why it doesn't work. See, this is the experimentation, fail fast. You hear it, experimentation, fail fast. Those are cultural ideas of digital, right? And this is exactly what I mean when we do it. We don't say, isn't this great? We said, what didn't work about this? What didn't work about it, and how would we fix it better the next time? And we walk away with a bunch of lessons learned, and we start all over again. And we keep going back until we get it right before we decide when we deploy it. Does that make sense? Does that help tie these pieces together? How does it really become work that the organization does? So the employee experience, that's what we call how people experience their digital capabilities. It needs to feel like the organization that I work in. It needs to feel relevant to me and my job. And as you know, employee experience is a combination of my work environment, how it feels collaborative, how it enables collaboration, how it feels like the culture of the company that I work for, and it also is about me and my digital experience. Just like in the consumer marketplace, employees or workers, just so you know, I'm going to start changing my language personally over the next few months to say worker experience instead of employee experience, because a lot of these people aren't employees, right? They're workers by any name. But employees or people are at the center of these models, just like your customers are center. So again, when we're talking to leaders, we're like, look, we get that model. We get customer centricity. We get people centricity. We know how to build people-centric solutions. And that's what we mean here. The difference is inside the enterprise, we have the problem of needing to deliver business value. I'm not buying a pair of shoes like I am in the consumer space. I need to make something more productive. I need to manage risk. Therefore, I have to start with the business model. This is a big flaw. This is good advice. If you're working on digital projects that are starting with design thinking, I want to say, that's not likely to cut what I'm talking about. Because if you design based on people centricity only, you lack the context of what the business needs. You lack the context of what the business needs. IT and design thinking projects for anything really important, I'm going to say you're hopping on one leg, because the first leg that you need to sit down is the business leg. What's the business trying to achieve? There's nothing wrong with the business looking for value from digital. Of course we should be looking for value from digital. The question is how so? And then we do design thinking, and we engage people because we know what we want to engage them to do. We know how we want them to feel. We know how we want to help them. We have the context of what the business is trying to do. Take your most important business strategies, not your lightest weight ones, not self-service and transactions, a culture of inclusion, culture of health and well-being, how people think about their career journeys differently than they used to think about them. Take your most challenging problems and ask the question, what can digital do for us there? Start at the top, don't start at the bottom. Start at the top. How do we create a growth mindset as we recover from a recessionary market and create industries that can lead going forward? Because we've got a lot of companies who are struggling with growth, believe it or not, because we're moving from a stewardship model to a model of growth, and people have been conditioned for 8 years to be working under a stewardship model. Of course, that's what happened. You know, we caused that, we trained that, we developed that, and now we need to pay to have it changed, you know, and we need to realize that we instantiated it deeply. So how do we help people feel comfortable? Candid cultures, ability to fail, people feeling comfortable and speaking up, those are all about that. They're all about that. They don't come from nowhere. So take your most strategic goals, put digital against them, just like we do in the consumer space. It's the consumer analogy too. There's an app for that. There's an app for that. We need to say that inside the enterprise a little bit more. I want to get to some examples at the end, so I'm going to skip through these quickly. You need a methodology that has business design. The question is, how much business design? Brand new business design, starting from scratch business design, a slightly modified idea of business design. I'm not saying how big it is, I'm just saying it needs to be there. And then we need to have an iterative process of try and fail in terms of design. And when we're done, we have a business system and we have an experience system, and they work hand in hand. Make sense, everybody? People are, pivotal. Our analysis and protocol that we use to understand people is critical. So this is not something that you want to underplay, but if you do it too soon, you'll do it out of business context. And finally, the process of design is an iterative process, more about how we fail than how we succeed. Okay, I'm going to do eye candy, and then how much time do I have? Okay, not so bad, not so bad. So let me give you some eye candy of different digital experiences. Now I want to say these are experiences that we've developed already, and digital design is evolving every week, so it's not aspirational. These are the kinds of things that are going on today. Digital first solutions, things like highly personalized delivery of information and services. This is a table stakes idea. Of course we should be doing this idea. Personalization of people's ability to get the information that's relevant for them, the services that are relevant for them. And by the way, I hope that the one thing that you think in looking at all these is they all look like they're a consumer grade solution. This should look like something I could download on my phone as a consumer app, because that's what people expect when they come to work. So we should deliver that because that's the bar, and so we should hit that bar. A holistic experience that maximizes technology investments. This is why technology and IT should not be leading this out without you guys there. They don't have business context. You have business context. So business needs to not only be at the table, business actually needs to be driving this. I've yet to work in a solution, including the drone one I just showed you, where the project flamed because of technology. It flames because of people. It flames because of lack of sponsorship. It flames because we don't really know what we're trying to do. You see what I mean? That's much more common. So you should step up to the plate, because it's not likely it's going to go well without you there. Omni-channel experiences, that's a consumer concept. You know it when you buy shoes online, return them to your brick and mortar store, right? Pick up the phone and call when your credit was wrong, omni-channel. As a consumer, I move across those channels unfettered, anywhere I want to go. If you love a customer experience, it's because you can do all of those things. Because there's times that each one of those work really best for me. We need to stop herding employees to channels. Herd them to channels and shut down other channels because they're not available. We need to turn on our channels and let people go to the channels that really serve them best the most. And if they're good channels, they'll go online. I buy all my shoes online. They'll go online to do those things because they really do work well. We need to do the same thing inside the enterprise. Omni-channel experiences that are useful, and you can see that goes to the point that Molly was making about somebody using their watch. Same thing. Career journeys. In the digital organization, we need to redefine careers. Upward mobility is not what it was, 10 or 15 years ago. The definition of opportunity leading from where I am, leadership opportunities that might be associated with networking and affiliation groups, other ways that I define success in the future. These are the basis of the career experiences we need to be building for people. When we build good career experiences, we bring people, we pull them to a place that they aren't today, ways that they look for opportunities that they didn't look before, things that they consider to participate in the business, which I didn't consider leadership before. Get involved in a social, philanthropic idea that's approved by the business or sponsored by the business and realize you can lead there. And we'll recognize that you're leading there. Show up to a recruiting event, at a school and help us with career recruiting and be our ambassador of our brand, and we'll recognize that. The definition of opportunity needs to change, and how we design experiences that enable that are all about how we bring people to a place that they aren't today. A good employee experience is usable. A great employee experience is influential. It changes the way I think and the way I prioritize my day and different ideas. You want to build learning organizations where learning becomes a cultural idea, then build experiences that enable people to really consume and realize learning anytime. You get it. We have to connect the dots. Some of these slides that you're seeing are trying to say that experiences live where people work. We need to consider things like environmental factors, what people have access to, the time of the day that they can get to these experiences, and those all need to be factored. That's why it's likely that most organizations build omni-channel solutions, because they have to. I have retail people, I have on the road salespeople, I've got folks in the lab, I've got folks in the refinery, I've got people running the trains and planes. Environment matters in terms of how I reach people. Finally, culture. We should be designing experiences for culture and cultural alignment. And you could say, can we design digital experiences that, encourage culture? Absolutely. Cultures of collaboration, cultures of networking, cultures of hanging my digital shingle at work so people can find me and I can find other people. Making sure that there's ways for people to participate. There's a lot of the digital organization that seeks horizontal behaviors, networking, connectivity, participation, advocacy, ambassadorship. Those are not vertical ideas, they're horizontal ideas. So a lot of what we're talking about tipping over in terms of structure is in order to have horizontal, thick ideas like culture really be gluey. Okay, here's my last section, and then I want to play a quick video. Organizational capabilities. We want to design for innovation, enable innovation, let people share ideas with peers, let them be allowed to take time to do that, and reward people when they become experts within the organization, the most sought after, the most contributing, first person that somebody goes to. This idea of hanging my digital shingle, let my brand sit inside your brand. Don't be afraid of that. Let my brand as an individual sit inside the brand of the organization and let me feel like I belong here, that my skills belong here, and that I'm able to advertise myself and nobody thinks that that's getting around an HR system. You see what I mean? Finally, we need to think about enabling people with personal assistants, because that's what they are. Digital attaches to people more and more over time, literally. They're going to attach to people, they augment me, and when things work for me as a set of tools like that, that's the man-machine marriage that we think is the positive outcome of digital transformation in the future state. And our job, what we do, what we love to do, is to help customers adapt to that change, get in front of it, and really encourage a workforce to embrace that transformation and realize that in the future there really is, a better place for human work to occur if we can, let machines do some of the things that they'll do better than us, and we can let people really do what they do best. I just want to show you one last, it'll just take 2 minutes. It's a video on how to think about a totally different onboarding process when it's digital first, but business strategy is being met and people strategy is being met. Take 2 minutes and I'm done. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was really a pleasure to be here. And if you're interested in any of this content, you can swing by our booth and we'll get a copy of the presentation to you if it's not readily available, or you can pick up some of our materials at our booth as well. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Good luck.